This as a terrorism investigation until it can be determined that it was not. We are looking at every possible avenue, whether it was terrorism, whether it was domestic, international, or whether it was a simple criminal act. We're looking at that.
We're going to go straight back to those live pictures coming to us from Chattanooga in Tennessee, where that shooting has taken place. Philip Crowther joins us from Washington. Philip, even as we look at the latest pictures, what can you tell us about what's gone on?
Well, we've got confirmation from the Pentagon of those who were killed in that shooting. There were two locations in this shooting. One of them, a Naval Reserve Center. That is where 4 members of the U.S. Marines, 4 members of the United States Armed Forces were killed. Those two locations, first of all, a recruitment center. That appears to be the place where the shooter, who was also killed in the end, injured one police officer of the Chattanooga police force. That was all that happened at that recruitment center. Then 15 miles away from there, the second location is the Navy Reserve Center. That is where the 4 Marines were killed. There were 3 injuries altogether. Unclear exactly where each one of those happened. All of this happening in the city of Chattanooga, in the state of Tennessee, but on the border also with the states of Alabama and Georgia. That is what we know so far. You heard there from the U.S. Attorney saying this is now being investigated as an act of domestic terrorism. Doesn't mean it is one, but what it does give the FBI is gives it all sorts of possibilities to investigate what happened. They are saying that this is over now and that there is no suspicion that there was more than one shooter involved.
Do we know anything at all for the time being about the shooter?
A little something here and there. Investigators, largely of the FBI, who now lead this investigation, say that the shooter was probably from the area and certainly lived in the area at the time, was not a member of the armed forces at the time, might have been in the past. That is pretty much all there is. Investigators are very reluctant to talk about who exactly this person was. They do, though, say that the situation is over, and as we just said, that there was just that one shooter involved. In other words, there's an investigation underway, but no longer what is called an active shooter scenario. There is nobody on the loose anymore. Investigators do say, though, that numerous weapons were used. We don't know which ones. There hasn't been more information on that so far. But 2, well, essentially military targets. They're essentially seen as soft targets because they're first a recruitment center, then a Navy Reserve Center. These are not on the inside of military bases. They're a little bit easier to access, especially a recruitment center. This one was in a strip mall in the city of Chattanooga. Essentially, that is a storefront where members of the U.S. Armed Forces are recruited. In other words, that's a little bit easier to target. But there's no information yet on what the possible motive might have been for this person to attack not one, but 2 military targets.
Thank you very much indeed, Philip Crowther, with the very latest there from that developing news story in Chattanooga.